Small disclaimer before this video starts, I noticed quite a few problems with my designing subs video. I'm still pretty happy with that video overall, especially because I edited it all in like a day. But looking back, there's a lot of changes I'd like to make, mostly to Foamton and Inkhook, with addressing Foamton's innate camping abilities, which I somewhat neglected to address originally, and getting rid of those, and making Inkhook more of a mobility tool instead of one that inhibits it. Since I further thought I agree that Splatoon shouldn't have something that inhibits mobility and instead enhances it. So of that, I am thinking of doing a video where I take critiques and correct some of the things I neglected in my past videos, essentially doing a community nerf/rework of some of my past designs. Tell me what you think in the comments, and now to the main video. So, I love Splatoon. That's not much of a surprising statement, I know, but a game I love just as much is and with that, I really wanted to make some TF2 videos. However, I know those videos would drop harder than a
insert joke.
So to ease in viewers and kind of gauge how much I can get away with here, I thought going ahead and creating Splatoon kits for the 9 Mercenaries of TF2 would make for a fun and interesting way to do so. All the TF2 classes have such distinct roles in their game, and while their loadouts can drastically change how they're played, we will mainly be focusing on their general roles and disregard gimmicks for now, maybe coming back and doing those in the future. We'll see. With that, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, the YouTube thing. Wondering how long it'll take for that to get annoying. And let's begin.
I'm a freaking blur here!
The Merc with a Mouth, the Boston Bruiser, the Bad Boy Buster. Those rhymes sucked. Scout was by far one of the easier classes to create a kit for. While I obviously can't do a one-to-one kit for any TF2 class, I mean 90% of the TF2 classes use shotguns, and I sure as hell ain't giving Umbrella to every one of these kits. However, I can adopt the general characteristics of each class. Scout, of course, being a rushdown character, specializing in getting high priority picks and retreating, or more realistically dying a painful death because they don't know what the hell's going on. Kinda like a certain rushdown option. I think a Splattershot Jr. is a pretty solid base weapon. It's short range and requires more tactical pushes due to set range, and okay but not amazing damage. Though I think an even better choice, and probably the best option overall, is the Dapple Dualies. Dapples have less range than the Junior but significantly higher damage, and what to me makes it a definitive go-to option for Scout is the dodge rolls, being the closest thing to imitate Scout's extra mobility options in TF2, those of course being his unique ability to double jump. While not a one-to-one conversion of that mobility option, we're going for generalized characteristics more than anything, and I feel this does well to do just that. There's other dualies that could also work, but we want low range, high damage as that's Scout's specialty, so these are probably the best option, if not maybe the Splat dualies, but I feel Dapple fills that role a bit better.
Let's do this!
Fizzy Bomb. It just makes sense. It helps him cover his low range by giving him a poking option like his pistol, cleaver, rap assassin, and all that. And like, it's Scout. He's the funny soda drinking man. We gotta give him the soda bomb. 100% has to be Kraken Royale or Reef Slider. Scout specializes in rushing in, getting a few kills, then promptly dying a painful death, and these two are probably the best specials to show off this characteristic. Though Killer Whale 5.1 was also on the table for its rushdown potential, I feel Reef Slider shows off the rush in and probably die mentality most free-to-play Scouts embody, but Kraken is for sure the superior option, so we'll give him that. Though, we don't really care if these kits are good per se, just if they do well to encapture the class's role. Still, like, Kraken can be so much more fun than Reef Slider.
If God had wanted you to live, he would not have created me!
Soldier in terms of TF2 is typically seen as beginning class in a lot of ways. Not to say that he doesn't require a crap ton of learning skill to master, just that his baseline skill cap for new players is a lot lower than other classes due to his moderately speedy projectiles and wide explosion radius. So you'd think we'd give him a kit that inhibits similar characteristics. Well, we're not. Of course we're giving him a blaster. Blasters are by far the closest thing to rocket launchers in Splatoon with their slow speed, high resource use, but big damage and potential if mastered. So it naturally makes sense that Soldier would love to use one of these explosive ink cannons to spread some chaos. But which one? Why am I acting like this was a hard decision? It's Range Blaster. Low fire rate, but high as hell damage with medium range, plus like, look at it, very Rocket-esque design I'd say. It's perfect.
Booyah!
The kit was a bit harder, since Soldier is so versatile it could really be any sub in the game. I think I'm gonna go with Splat Bomb though. Soldier is supposed to be reliable, and when I think reliability, I think Splat Bomb. So it seems like a no-brainer. As for special, yeah, no comment here. The first hard class. Well, at least to make a Splatoon kit for. Pyro is another class more focused on close range combat, yet unlike Scout, Pyro is less like an annoying flea and more like a rampaging bull, at times excelling at getting picks and getting out relatively safe with their ability to reflect projectiles and inflict afterburn to get a lot of kills they'd otherwise miss out on. Afterburn. I feel there's quite a few options that match this class's short range, moderately high DPS, and generally annoying nature. However, I feel the best option would be a roller or a bucket. Also was heavily considering Sploosh with a low range, high damage, but this felt more fun. And as someone who uses a lot of these weapons, that is buckets and rollers, I know that they tend to prefer a more sharking or pestering playstyle where they just kind of annoy people, get a few picks, maybe pay for special, and so on. I'll be honest, Pyro just walking at you is a notorious strategy in TF2 and for some reason just kind of works. And a certain class seems to inhibit similar attributes. You can usually outrange them a good amount of the time, but some will just die anyway. As for Witch Roller, I think the good old reliable Splat Roller is the best option, since it's the most consistent of all the rollers in terms of range, damage, and so on. Yeah, that's close enough. Angle Shooter is garbage compared to even Pyro's Flare Gun, but they work in a decently similar manner, and I just can't help but give him this one. For special, Ink Vac is by far the most fitting option, as its ability to suck him and shoot back enemy ink is the closest thing we're getting to Pyro's Air Blast in Splatoon, so it's another no-brainer. Demoman was another one I found a little difficult, but decided on Rapid Blaster to imitate his grenade launcher's higher range and damage. While Rapid Blaster lacks damage compared to other blasters, its higher speed compared to the others mixed with its good range seems like the best fit. Then of course there's Demoman's unique ability to set up traps and trick foes with his sticky bombs. I mean, like, there's only one sub that even comes close to that, and it's 100% ink mines, which have a similar feel to stickies even if they're weak and functionally a little bit different, but close enough. Then of course we gotta give him an explosive focus special. I mean, it's Demoman. So my first thought was triple in strength, but then I'd kinda just be giving him default Rapid Blaster, which would be fine, but I feel one that probably fit him better is Super Chump. I mean, you shoot a bunch of explosive bombs that detonate after a short period of time, granted Demoman has to usually do that manually, and they're great for spamming at chokes and to a lesser degree supporting their team. Yeah, Super Chump will do just fine.
Entire team is babies!
The big sandwich-loving, gun-shooting Russian himself, Heavy is very much the class that is used to engage pushes and lead his team up to the front line using his minigun, to just absolutely murder foes unaware of him. Or aware of him, he kills you very fast. Of course, this is balanced out by his super slow speed, and there really isn't any point babbling on, is there? We're giving him a heavy splatling. You saw it in the thumbnail after all. I mean, it's called the heavy splatling, like, come on. But besides that, it just fits pretty well, as it has very high range with medium windup and great damage, but like, damage isn't really something any of the Splatlings struggle with. Regardless, it works quite well. As for sub, Heavy is typically the one that lasts the longest in fights due to his high HP and HP regenerating lunchbox items. Or it's because of his Pokématic GF, but that's not here nor there. So I feel a Splash Wall would fit him pretty well. It'd help him block incoming damage and stay in fights for a longer period of time. I have a feeling that Splash Wall and Heavy Splatling would be a very strong combo, but I never played much of Splatoon 1, so I don't know. I struggled a bit with specials as Heavy is very much about high damage and just generally being a brick wall, and due to that I felt there was a lot that could work here. Tactical, it could represent his lunchbox items to a degree, Big Baller could show his tanking abilities, though I think the special is better suited for someone else, or a special like Wave Breaker that is just generally decent damage and acts kind of like a semi-support special in a way, with enemies having to jump over the waves, which just kind of fits him. So for now, I'm gonna go with Wave Breaker, but this one's a bit more up in the air.
Start praying, boy.
Engineer relies on being a more hybrid role, supporting his team while also contributing to a large amount of map control and damage through his turrets and teleporters. So with such a complex role, this one was a lot harder to pin down a specific weapon or class that really fits him, as a lot of his main weapons are more so used as utility tools than anything, and when it's purely meant for DPS, it's typically lower but more reliable damage. And with that, I think NZAP, or maybe even Splatbrella, would be the best fit. NZAP is shorter range, high speed, decent ink, and okay damage. It is typically paired with more supportive options. While the Splatbrella is a bit more of an aggressive option, the shield of the brother may help tank some damage while he goes in to get beacons up for his team. I think we'll go with NZAP, mostly because Brellas still barely work. Poor Brellas. I may have spoiled it a bit, but for his sub I chose Beacon, as it just kinda makes sense. Working similarly to NG's teleporter, being able to be placed in a variety of spaces, allowing their teammates to then jump or teleport to said locations. Though I can't see Beacon on NZAP being the best thing in the world, but maybe it'd be better than I think since it's fast and lightweight. As for the special, as much as I hate to do it, Crab Tank is probably the best fit here. Crab Tank is the closest thing to NG's turrets in Splatoon with its rapid fire guns alongside with its ability to shoot explosive shots. I know, more Crab Tank is not welcomed right now. I get it, I agree, but this is fictitious and it fits NG just so damn well. I guess Tacticooler could work as well, as it has a similar feeling to NG's dispensers with it supplying a nice supportive option. So pick your poison, whichever works, but since NZAP already has a Tacticooler kit, I thought this would be more interesting at least.
Whoops. That was not medicine.
Oh, Medic, you psychotic but endearing madman. Well, I guess that's all the mercs in a way. Medic is, if it wasn't obvious, the support class of the group, supplying the team with heals, buffs, and so forth. Commonly seen as one of the team's most valuable assets and therefore considered an important target. There's no true support weapons in Splatoon, at least not really, but there's a few supportive options in the form of subs and specials. Also, I guess snipers be considered supportive to a degree, but we're not giving Medic a sniper rifle. Instead, my first choice was one of the stringers, as, let's be honest, the Crusader's crossbow is basically medic stock at this point, and the stringers are pretty similar to a crossbow. I mean, they're bows. The kit is a bit more straightforward, but at the same time I also feel it can have a lot more variation. However, we're going to be going with Torpedo and Big Bubbler. Torpedo might seem like an odd choice at first, but when it comes down to it, it just kind of makes sense. Torpedo has a multitude of uses, giving it a lot more inherent utility. It can poke, locate, paint, etc., and something I feel Medic tends to do well is having great utility in different situations. Maybe less so with his stock weapons, but just as a whole class, he tends to get a lot out of each of his slots, and I feel Torpedo does a similar thing. To a degree at least. Or just give him burst bomb. It's probably the better option, and it has always had a lot of different use cases. Big Bubbler being a big old shield is probably the closest we're getting to an uber charge in Splatoon, which is fine by me because, oh my lord, imagine ink armor but completely invincible? No thanks. So this is a good replacement, giving him the ability to help his team tank incoming damage and push up to stand their ground.
That funeral ain't gonna be open casket.
Do I need to explain what Sniper does? He snipes, and, he does that pretty well. Sniper is, for better or worse, a supportive class that specializes in long-range picks and was by far the easiest class in this video. The Splatterscope is a no-frill sniper of Splatoon, and well, that's pretty fitting. Now Sniper can have no awareness in Splatoon as well. I kid, but it really is the best option as well. It's a scope sniper rifle and, well, I mean, what else do you want from me? As for the rest of the kit, I really didn't have much trouble. I mean, throwing something like a Girardi, that's pretty toxic. For the special, well, Sniper in the TF2 community is kind of a touchy topic for many, so I feel letting his special align with that for the Splatoon community makes a little sense. So logically that means Crab Tank or Tenta missiles. And while Tenta is not nearly as bad as it was to play against on launch, the whole global range thing kinda gives off Matt Sniper vibes. So it feels pretty natural, I'd say. But honestly, Sniper is another class I could see having a multitude of good kits that fit him pretty well.
You are an amateur and a fool.
The slide guy that's gonna make you die. Spy is very much a pick class. Using his Invis Watch and iconic knife, he specializes in picking unsuspecting targets that just love to smell the finest glue. Nah, no Elmer's glue here. But jokes aside, Spy is another class that can be taken in many different angles, but at the end of the day is supposed to be played sneakily, only revealing himself when all the cards are in his hand. Not to say I ever see Spies actually play that way, but my point stands. And that honestly leaves us with a lot of options. Basically any sharking weapon would fit him well enough, but come on, we gotta give him a knife, and the closest we're gonna be getting to that is one of the Splatanas. Even if they're designed after katanas, that doesn't mean this French ferret can't wield one, right? French ferret, what does that mean? Why did I write that? I mean, it's just a very big knife after all. I totally triggered someone by saying that. Regardless, on top of that, the instant kill hitbox on the Splatanas is the closest we're getting to Spy's iconic backstab, and with that alone, I feel it has to be one of them. Granted, I guess rollers could also do that, but we already gave someone a roller, so. Personally, I'm gonna go with Stamper for this one, more or less based purely on looks for this. The metal finish just fits a lot more to the point where I feel it is necessary to choose over Wiper. However, the Splatana Wiper is still a solid choice, and like I said, even a roller could work for this situation. The kit itself was a little trickier, and is another case where I feel there's a few options to mess around with. I decided that Point Sensor Autobomb be the best option here. Of course, actual Stamper main don't need to play that sneakily, but in the context of a kit for Spy, these are pretty solid. Point Sensor and or Autobomb allow Spy to get that extra insight he needs when tracking down players, something that is especially useful in a game like Splatoon where hiding in ink is so prevalent. I think Point Sensor is the more reliable option for pinning down foes, but Autobomb will give him a slightly more lethal option. I mean, Point Sensor doesn't do damage, so yeah. I think this is another case where both work super well, so I'll let you decide which you prefer. The special was especially difficult for Spy, and I still don't have a great option to be honest, but I ultimately decided on Zipcaster as it allows for highly mobile attacks and exits, which is something I feel Spy is quite known for, seemingly disappearing into thin air after an assault. Or not disappearing and instead dying a brutal death. Either way, Zipcaster seems appropriate enough. Wow, that was a much longer video than I meant it to be. Either way, I hope you enjoyed it and tell me what kit you'd like to use if they were real, because some of these kits are pretty damn broken, and some of them were pretty awful. Regardless, this was a ton of fun, and I hope at some point I can make some solely TF2 related content in the future, but farther off in the future. As for now, I plan to continue the Splatcraft series alongside designing specials, with a few one-offs in between of course. So with that, stay tuned for those, and I'll see you around.